Hey guys, this is take two. On my first take, I thought I would try to review Bokurano R's number two. And haven't you heard I'm Sakamoto number two? Because Bokurano R's is so sad and Sakamoto is so funny. I thought it would be like a good comic relief. But in the past, what I've done is if something is good enough that it gets its own video, that's usually a sign of respect that it's giving me a lot of stuff to talk about that wasn't covered in Volume 1. So I did a mostly spoiler-free review of Volume 1 where I hinted at some of the plot elements briefly. For Bokurano R's number 2, I'm going to have to talk about spoiler content. So here's the spoiler-free review, real quick. Bokurano R's is dealing with really mature, really dark topics with sophistication and combining it with giant robot fights. The giant robot fights are cool and always have a strategic element to them. And this deals really powerfully with themes of death and growing up. And Mohiro Kito's art style is kind of has a sketchy outline to it all, and very detailed backgrounds and very innovative robot designs. I wanted to show the inside covers show his sketching process, and it clearly starts with just some big, simple shapes to give it like a really strong outline, and then he builds up, like all the detail work, like this insect and spine and bone part inspiration pieces on top of the simple shapes. So all of his robot designs are really memorable, and there's always a distinct flavor to each fight. So, and it deserves its older teen warning. This is an M-rated book or an R-rated book. I'm going to argue in the spoiler part of the review that I think it's using mature themes effectively as part of a good narrative, but kind of breaks your heart a little bit. All right, with that, spoiler. Go get Bokurano R's. Okay, you've been spoiler warned. What I didn't spoil about Volume 1 is that the main character dies right at the end of Volume 1. Takashi Waku, right? So he at first he just looks like, a generic heroic boy protagonist. He has his kind of moment in the sun as the first pilot of the robot, and then he dies almost by accident. And it's so shocking. Like, I thought it was a joke at first and he was going to be fine, and then no, he was dead. So I thought, okay, and so then I thought, is this going to be about all these kids dying? And then my fears started getting confirmed, but it wasn't quite in the way I expected. So the second pilot for the robot was this glasses kid, Masaru Kodaka, who kind of has this Darwinian perspective where he doesn't care if people die as long as he beats the evil robot. And then his dad gets crushed, and that kind of breaks his world because his dad's a big old tough guy, kind of a Donald Trump sort of figure. And so he has to come to grips with the fact that death comes to us all, even if you're a big old tough guy businessman who can boss around people at work. Death can still strike you suddenly. And then he also kind of has like a moment of growth where he realizes that, it's not just collateral damage. These are real people's lives that he's fighting for. And he learns because he admired his dad in construction, he took inspiration from pile drivers to give him some grounding to protect him from getting flipped around by this robot, right? See, so the physical attack, the evil robot attacks by whipping a cord at you and throwing you around like a little toy, connects to he figures out, okay, I've got a solution, I'll stick to the ground so it can't tug me around, and that connects with him kind of coming to terms with his dad's loss and him needing to become like his own man, right? And so it ends with him just flopping over dead of a heart attack after defeating the evil robot, and that's when you realize, oh, so the first one wasn't an accident. These kids die because they pilot the robot, so they've essentially been deceived into a death trap. They have to pilot the robot to save the Earth from the evil robots, but even if they win the fight, they'll die at the end. So Daiichi Yamura's story is the first one to occur after they make this discovery. So I really like the building of the plot for this. Every chapter builds on revelations from the last one. So, and they do a pretty good job of hinting at some of the characters' personalities before it's their turn in the spotlight, right? So Daiichi, what we've seen of him is he's very protective. He doesn't like it when an older brother is mean or bullying of his younger siblings. He's clearly very concerned for his family. So this is a family guy. This is a guy who cares a lot about being a big brother. So his story is just so heartfelt. It's about an older brother who cares about his younger siblings, who's coming to the grips with the fact that he's going to die soon and that he has to die to protect his younger siblings. So he just wants one last day with them at the carnival before they get summoned to fight the evil robots again. And it's just kind of like a lot of slice of life from him, kind of like living his last day and trying to prioritize what's important on his last day. Did I mention the thing about the chairs? Yeah, I think I mentioned the thing about the chairs in the first volume, where it kind of represents their soul, and his soul's like this very simple throw pillow on the ground that he kneels on. And then he, like the others, the evil robot is a giant wheel that crushes things. So he's got to think about how to use the wheel spinning attack against itself. There's just broke my heart because I'm an older brother. But then, like after he dies, he actually saved the carnival from the evil robot so that his siblings could go there the next day. And the oldest of his younger siblings, she knows or suspects that he's dead. The youngest two still don't quite get it, and so they're asking, well, where is he? Oh, that hit me so bad. All right, so this is worth getting just for that one. And then what's interesting is Mako Nakarai. She also knows she's going to die now, right? So what I'm wondering is, well, how are they going to keep this from like repeating over and over again? Because now every kid's going to know that they're going to die at the end. And what was interesting about this is Mako's story is very distinct from what's good big brother kid's name? Hold on. Daiichi. Daiichi was like all about like kind of coming to terms with yourself, coming to terms with your life, finding a purpose for yourself. Even if you're sad that you're going to die, you find a purpose in that. Mako's is a bit unusual. So she's also kind of like a goody two-shoes kind of kid who cares about rules and stuff, which has been established before. I don't quite understand everything about Mako's chapter, except that it kind of changes up the formula a bit. So what becomes clear is that people hate her because she's a goody two-shoes. They think she's a teacher's pet and a tattletale, and they say her mother is a whore. And there's just this really subtle bit of school bullying where it's not like over the top like 90s sitcom school bullying. Like one of the girls just throws a towel at her face, and it's just a tiny little gesture. It doesn't hurt her, but it's purely done just kind of like for the meanness of saying I want to hurt your feelings. And it's so vindictive. So Mako has an interesting psychology in that her mother is a prostitute, and so her way of coping with that is to try to be the nicest little goody two shoes possible to make up for it. She doesn't want anyone to think she's a bad girl. But then this has the opposite effect of people hate her because they think she's just pretending to be a goody little two-shoes. She also does some sewing, which will be important later, but then kind of out of left field, she asks her mom's pimp to set her up with a client. And he's hesitant at first. He thinks she's too young, but she's kind of very persistent. She says, if you don't do it, I'm going to just go out to the street corner and do it anyway. So he says, oh, okay, then I better, if you're going to do it, then you better be safe. So he decides he's going to get her a client. And I don't really understand why she's doing this. I thought, well, she says she's doing it to make money, but that didn't make sense to me. I wondered, is she doing this because she realizes she's going to die and she wants to have like a last hurrah? Is she just tired of being goody two-shoes and she wants to be a bad girl for once? Is some sort of way of like trying to understand her mom or get back at her mom? I really did not understand the psychology of this, but there's a kind of a, I mean, this is all really creepy because she's supposed to be like 13 and like she's kind of like innocent and flustered, so she doesn't really know what she's getting into. And then this guy shows up who's not as creepy as what she was expecting in her imagination. And then he pretty much says, I'm not going to go through with this. You shouldn't be doing this. And he explains that he knew her mother. Now, I thought, oh, that must be like her father. And so it's like her father coming to rescue her and tell her you shouldn't be doing this. But then they subvert that, and the mom says, oh, that guy wasn't your father. He was just some random guy who slept with me once and offered to marry me, but he's not your father. And then she says, well, why didn't you marry him, Mom? And then the mom says, oh, he's into all sorts of kinky, creepy adult baby stuff. Like, oh, ha, ha, ha. I thought it was kind of like undermining what could have been like a really sweet, poignant moment, just for a laugh about how he's a pervert. But what's actually kind of sweet about this is she wants to go through with something. She's being stupid, right? It's her last day on Earth. Instead of like getting her affairs in order and kind of coming to terms with things, she's trying to do something stupid on her last day. And then sort of fortuitously, she's delivered from doing something really stupid that she'll regret. And there's like this really sweet moment where she kind of has to like face up to her mom about what she did. And I don't like her mom. Like the narrator's trying to like make her point that her mom's like super tough and can deal with people calling her a prostitute. But I just feel like the mom is selfish and has subjected her daughter to all of this. And now she's in like her middle ages and she's still a prostitute. What are you doing with your life, mom? So I didn't find her mom inspiring whatsoever. I found her really vindictive and petty, and I thought that kind of like undermined what could have been like a really good moral message. But after she kind of comes to term with her, the point her mom makes is you can look good on the outside but not be good on the inside. You can have like a facade of being a good person that doesn't actually reflect who you are. And so her advice is like the best thing is to be a good person and have and behave like a good person as kind of like your public face. The second best thing is to be a good person even if you have a bad rep. And the worst thing is to have a good rep but actually be an awful person. So I guess that kind of makes sense. I just don't like the morality of her mom being like a cool super duper prostitute. But then what happens next? Because she's a sewer, she sews these outfits for them, and I'm already starting to see foreshadowing for future characters who they're freaked out by all this, they don't want to die. But her point is, like, obviously I don't want to die. Obviously I'm not celebrating this. I just wanted to do something almost kind of like to prepare myself for this. And her way of preparing herself for this was to make like these cool anime uniforms that would make them look cool. And that just kind of like, that underscores like the emotional point that they're still thinking about this, like it's a manga they read or an anime they watched, and they haven't, like, they understand now that they're going to die and they have to deal with that reality. There's no choice. If they don't fight, if they refuse to fight, the planet blows up and they die anyway. So they've been forced into this awful situation, and her way of coping with it is to try to give it some sort of semblance of meaning and do something kind for the other teenagers who are in the situation with her. And that just hit me. So she has this cool fight where she's spent her whole life trying to be a goody two-shoes on purpose and like not be combative. And so what she figures out is her arms are too long. They're meant for stabbing. So she drops the stabber so she can get like a blunt instrument to punch it. So she figures out it is okay to punch things as long as you, what is it? As long as you can take responsibility, it's okay to use your fist. All right. So she's kind of like, she's learned to just stop pretending to be a little goody two-shoes who doesn't try to hurt anybody, and learn that it's actually okay to use violence in the name of protecting life if you take responsibility for your actions and you have if it's in defense of life. So I thought that was really sweet. There was also like this whole interesting little side plot actually that I forgot about. So she wants one last hour on Earth and she uses it to save her bully. And there's this like ironic twist where the bully was actually like sleeping around with boys, even though she was making fun of Mako for being a slut's daughter. So what that kind of underscored is that the bully looked like she was a good little goody two shoes, and she was willing to make fun of Mako for being a bad person, but actually the bully was doing the sin that she was making fun of Mako for. He who is blameless cast the first stone. It shows like the bully's like nude body, and it's actually pretty funny the way she saves her. Like she saves her, she ends up getting like in trouble with her mom for sleeping around, but then at the end, her bully is kind of like a changed person, and she realizes that she gets to live now. It's on her to like make something of that life she's been given. So what I really like about this, I love the art too of the characters. So what I like about this is dealing with death in different ways. So if this guy's story was about kind of dealing with death in a really mature way, kind of like mature beyond his years, thinking about his family, thinking about his younger siblings, thinking about the impact on them, Mako's was a little bit more about being unsure of yourself, not knowing what your death is going to be about, not knowing what your life has been about, and then that was the problem. I didn't like hers as much because I didn't quite understand the psychology of all of it, but kind of like showing one last act of grace to her tormentor, to change her tormentor, and then coming to terms with the fact that you can't just pretend to be a good person. She actually finds a reason to protect others beyond just wanting to be perceived as a good person, even if it's not known, the self-sacrificial thing she's doing. This is amazing stuff. And it's got giant robots in it that fight evil giant robots. And the giant robot fights are really cool. So there's some nudity, there's death. Yeah, it deserves its mature rating. I think I've articulated why I think it's appropriate for the context of the story. I think it's sending an ultimately really decent message about the value of life. And I will absolutely keep reading this. So, sorry, Sakamoto. I really needed you to cheer me up after reading this sad book, Bokurano R's, but we're out of time, Sakamoto, so you'll get a review next time. With that, I'm #1 Marmaduke fan. I love you guys. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. Click the bell to receive notifications. Check out my Subscribestar. Subscribestar is the only way to support this channel, and I thank my subscribers at the end of every video. Love you guys, and I'll catch you later.